One of our clients generated $7,699.11 from agentic SEO in the last 30 days. Another client generated $30,000 just from AI SEO. By the end of this video, you know why AI picks them and the checklist for doing it for yourself. So let's actually jump into ChatGPT and show you exactly the type of prompts or questions that customers are searching. So if I say best mold-free coffee, we can wait, and I am actually just fingers crossed that the client will show up, and they do. Awesome. So this is our client, Purity Coffee, and they're showing up here as the #1 result. Now this is on free ChatGPT, so all the models are different. We'll get into that. Calm down. But you can see here, Purity Coffee. Now, a couple interesting things already is that iHerb is showing up as well as their main store. But something I first want to show you is just the biggest thing for AI SEO or generative engine optimization, which is sources. So ChatGPT particularly will just tell you where it's getting a lot of this data from. So you can see they have multiple websites naming off the best mold-free coffee or whatever your sub niche is. And they also have more different examples here of all kinds of stuff. So you can kind of see where the AI was researching. So let's take a step back and just ask the question, how does an AI decide what the best X product is? Well, what it does is that it takes a query like, best mold-free coffee, and then it does a query fan out. This idea is where it builds a bunch of different searches, just like a human would, right? You want to figure out the best XYZ, you should probably not just search best XYZ, right? We know how Google is and how us SEOs are. But if you search multiple queries, best mold-free coffee 2026, best free mold coffee Reddit, best mold-free coffee reviews, and then you search the names of the brands and so on, you're going to get better research and better results. So you can even see here from this, you can kind of figure out what some of its queries were, right? Is Pete's Coffee mold-free? So somewhere it was researching Pete's Coffee because it saw it somewhere, it knows it's a big brand or whatever, and it actually asked the question to Google, essentially, is Pete's Coffee mold-free? We compared the top brands. And you can also see there's some recommendations here and so on. And so already you can kind of get an idea of how AI SEO is panning out, especially in terms of Shopify stores. So are we able to actually see the hidden searches behind ChatGPT? Well, truthfully, you can. And you can use various tools for it, but we have a really easy extension made by somebody in the community that's really cool. So if I just open up ChatGPT here, this is my paid account. So I used the incognito window because they're all listening, right? So I didn't want any changes in the data. But if we go here and we ask some question, right? Best kayak, just to show that it goes all across niches. One, we can see it's searching the web, right? It's not lying to us. It searches the web. And then we can see how this goes. And now let me see if this was tracking results. Here we go. So this is the GPT query extractor. And so you can go on the Chrome extension store, download it. Some lovely person made this, probably with quad code, and it works decently well. And so already we can see the core prompt here is best kayaks 2026 reviews. So that's sort of the query that it's researching with as its primary query. And so again, it doesn't necessarily research Google. This is kind of the weird place, is a lot of these AI systems don't tell you what platforms they're researching on. So it's either an internal search engine that searches the web, it's Bing, or it's Google, right? Something along those lines we can assume is true. And then it gives a product recommendation, and it decided on this Shields product. So, and you can see it even gives some additional references here. It looked at some potential reviews, some Reddit, some Facebook. So of course, social media is becoming more and more important, and we'll talk about that in a second. So as you can see, in this case, there was only one query, but sometimes there's not. So if we search best mold-free coffee, something along these lines, and open it up here, and we can see it's starting to pull. Yeah, so this time it has 3 searches for that one query. So we can, copy these, search them on Google or whatever we want. You can see it makes these long searches sometimes, which is kind of interesting. And then you have all kinds of content here. And so these would be the query fan out, where it's looking at different things. It's looking at third-party tested, 2026, a USD organic, right? So it's already kind of connecting a lot of these ideas, what we call entities in the SEO space. And this tool is really cool because you can also add in a bunch of different prompts here and then get a ton of query fan out. So then you can understand the types of searches on the internet that the AI like ChatGPT or other ones are actually using to find and research their products. And so that's a very important point. You don't rank, you get cited. And so that's quite a bit different. You get recommended. So this is a new paradigm in SEO that some of us aren't quite adjusted to yet. So we'll jump into that. But first, I want to ask a question. Can the AI engines even read your web page? So you may already have heard, but AIs are horrible understanding websites. They're worse than Google. They don't render JavaScript. Most of them don't. And so you are actually kind of like at the whims of some technical aspects for even being in the ring for getting recommended some of the time. And so one of the big things is just making sure that Google, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude can all read and understand your website. So we can check this in just a second with another Chrome extension. We make it easy for you. So let's actually look at this result here and see if we can find any that are kind of interesting. So if I go here, I have this Chrome extension here that turns off JavaScript. So if you're on your website and you turn off JavaScript and everything looks normal like this, perfect. But we'll find an example of a website that definitely does not look normal when you turn off JavaScript. So it did take a little bit of looking, but we found this website, Cafe Brit here. And if I click off JavaScript, the entire website is gone. So you have to be very careful with this. JavaScript is required. This is pretty much what ChatGPT is seeing on this website, right? And you have all kinds of variations. So the website's almost completely rendered by JavaScript. So when you turn off JavaScript, you don't really have anything there. So for these guys, they can never really show up well when ChatGPT is trying to research or verify their brand or whatever else. It's not doing it. Now, just to verify my thesis here that ChatGPT can't, there's actually been some tests that prove this. And so if you guys are really curious, add a comment and I can share them, but it's definitely the case that ChatGPT is very bad at processing JavaScript. So if you have content that's hidden in there, then it's not going to be great for your SEO or your AEO or your GEO or AI SEO or whatever we decide the name of this is. So do that test. I'll link in the JavaScript extension so that you can see, does GPT or any of the AIs even read your website? But let's go back to the search. So we know that ChatGPT searched best organic coffee brands, reviews, USD, organic, 2026, like mouthful. Now, this comes to a really important part about ChatGPT, which is that it's not about your website only anymore. And it never was, you know that, but ChatGPT even more so judges you by the pages you don't own. So I mean, this is pretty simple, right? If somebody's saying that they're the best, you're not really gonna trust them. If other people are, and you get votes of confidence in you, then you're gonna trust them more. It even goes back to the original idea in SEO of PageRank, but it's moving towards this idea of mentions. So already we have Ahrefs saying mentions matters more than backlinks. All kinds of stuff, right? So the idea is super simple. It's just, how often do people mention you, right? When they're talking about the best coffee for this, how often do they actually mention you? And so this becomes a very important part of AI SEO, is thinking about the overall sphere, especially on websites, right? These crawlers are basic, right? They're crawling websites more than anything, but they're also crawling Reddit, Facebook groups, things like that. So there's a social element of it too. But this idea of a mention is the new currency of the internet. So how do you figure out who's getting mentioned and how to increase mentions? How do we show up in AI? Well, we've created an internal tool that has been very useful for us here that allows us to get some level of source data, fan out data, things that we have been talking about, all kinds of stuff. And we built it with AI and data for SEO, so it's fairly affordable. And so you can see here, it's tracking it on a daily basis. It gives us a lot of nice data across different AIs and even ChatGPT's carousel. So lots of cool stuff here, compares it with competitors and everything like that. But what's more important than any of this is the citation sources.
So what you can do here is you can see, okay.
Right? So what you can do here is you can see, okay, what sources is ChatGPT or Claude or anyone else pulling from, and am I featured there? Am I mentioned? And so you can go through here and it will actually track where you have been mentioned and where you're absent, and filter it by all kinds of fun stuff. So you have listicle/review, user generated content like Reddit and so on, references, brand sites. So oftentimes it just reviews brands. That's why it's very important that it can actually read your website. So if you're locked under JavaScript, that's a problem, and all kinds of stuff. So we can see some of the gaps that we still have, but we've been working on this account, so we've been filling them out pretty aggressively, making sure that everyone that can mention us does mention us. And then you can also see the fan out queries of all the searches behind the answers of all the different types of stuff. And then also we have Claude here, which is a little bit less consumer, but I love Claude, so I want to confirm that I have good visibility on there too. And so essentially we're looking at all the sources, and you could do this manually, right? I'm not trying to pitch you, right? You look here and this tool is not for sale. But you look here and most of these results will give you sources. And so it's going to actually not be, am I going crazy? The source area is gone. Well, it gives you the sources normally for any query that you search. And so you can see what it's using, and you can kind of reverse engineer this yourself. You have the queries. You could just, search these queries, best class 2026, and build a similar list. But what this allows us to do is that it allows us to actually grab the exact resources that are showing up the most too. So we even have like days seen. So out of the last 7 days, these have been seen 7 out of 7 times. So they're big queries. So we can get a lot of cool information. And so this is essentially a similar tool to all the AI visibility tools out there. But if you want to see this for yourself, I can just do it for you. I'm kind of curious about how all of this works. So if you want to, links in the description. You have either a full audit if you want me to do the SEO side, or just the ChatGPT part. And I mean, again, I built this as a tool, so it takes me 1 click and maybe, $3 of API costs. So, unless I get thousands of people, I'm happy to run it for you, and you can put in your exact prompts on what you would want me to add into my system. But this will be very useful. And so even if you do it manually like this, and you just look at, okay, there's this article here, is it rendered by JavaScript? Yes, so Chat can pick it up. Now, does it mention our brand? If not, let's send them a product or something along those lines, and let's get mentioned there as best as we can. So let's reach out to, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, so I'm not going to try, but let's reach out to her. We have her Instagram and her website right here. Her website probably has a contact form. Let's reach out and say, hey, we have a product for you to review, or whatever else. So a lot of this ends up becoming essentially digital PR, or what was once called link building in SEO. So everything comes full circle. So we talked a lot about sources, citations, mentions, and recommendations. But I want to take a look at your own website further, because the content you have on your website matters a lot, and your overall brand positioning and messaging matter a lot. It really does matter, oftentimes more than anything else, or at least it's the foundation. If you don't have good positioning, good messaging, and content that AI can read and understand who you are, what you do, and why you're better, then all of this is going to be heavily hurt in its effectiveness. And so you want to do several key things. So one off, you need to know and prioritize and talk about what makes you different every way you can, both on your website and off your website. You're feeding a brand narrative to ChatGPT or any AI that is watching you or crawling you as a little robot. This is super important. We add into all of our content, all of our blogs, collection pages, everything, homepage. It all focuses on, why are we better? Why are we the best option? Why are we the best kayak? Why should actually that be the case? And you can also put it on your links and stuff like that. If you are building those or building mentions and PR, you can think about this narrative. because ChatGPT is actually asking that question. And when it reads something and you say, hey, we're better because we do this, right? We lab test, we have good customer service. I mean, basic stuff like that is going to work less well, but you're crafting this real narrative of why you're better than your competition. And so you can go really deep into that. And so we'll be sharing videos on like comparison articles and all kinds of different content you can do on your site and off your site that can help your AI SEO or generative engine SEO. That's going to be really helpful. And so I just wanted to share that because there's a lot of quick things that you can do that really help in terms of that. And it's just kind of general marketing. So keep that in mind as you're optimizing for AI visibility. And a brief note on that is that it's a little bit different than normal marketing because AIs do like quick, concise information. So a legend in the SEO space, Core pioneered this, which is the EAV method. So entity attribute value method. It's super basic. It's just saying give straight facts, right? So if you're saying the kayak holds 30 pounds, right? Very simple, very direct, and kind of a little bland. AI does have a harder time with like super flamboyant or all over the place language or eccentric language that might be super literature style or artistic. Unfortunately, it's still a robot. So you want to think about how can you give dense information that clearly articulates these things in clean sentences. So throughout the blog posts and their FAQs across your website, all that stuff should be thought about in this EAV format for AI SEO. So I talked a lot, but I want to make sure this is actionable. So I created an SEO checklist. So you can find this in the description or you can read it right here. But here are the 6 steps to showing up in ChatGPT, especially if you're a Shopify store, but really anyone, right? So first off, you want to verify your website can even be seen by ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of those guys. Once we confirm that, I have the link to the extension here, so you can just download it, check it, see if your site or brand is okay. Next, you want to search the prompt that you think your customers are, right? There's probably a best of type prompt that you can think of and use the query extractor to figure out what are those searches that the AI is doing to base its answers around. So once you've done that, and also for any of these people, give them a review. These are great extensions. I didn't make them. They're fantastic extensions though. I guess, this lady made it, but it's quite good. So, give them some love and support. Next, extract the sources that ChatGPT is doing for your question. And I actually did find here, it's under more actions, view sources. They're moving things all across the place all the time. So just extract these out. I mean, you can copy and paste them if you want. If you want to get my free audit, I do have, again, essentially like a little audit thing that you can get, and you'll get this, right, for your own brand, if that's of interest to you. So once you've extracted the sources and you have an idea of what kind of content, pages, Reddit, whatever else ChatGPT is sourcing its information from, you can then gain mentions within those sources or even build your own sources, depending on what you want to do. You always want to do this ethically. We like product reviews, digital PR, things like that to kind of expand out some of this coverage. And then you really want to publish content that states your unique brand position. So we'll probably go in another video deeper into content for AI SEO or GEO, but this is very important using the entity attribute value pair, making it very clear and concise across every page on your website, homepage, collection pages, product pages, why you're different from your competition, why essentially when ChatGPT is crawling and reading that, why should they recommend you? And then a last step, which I haven't talked about much here, is building content around the fan out queries. And so it's going to give you a ton of fan out queries if you give it enough prompts. Every time you essentially query any of these AIs, they create different fan out queries. But you can start to get the whole list of them and see how often they're mentioned. So you can grab a list like this, right? So this one's mentioned 4 times, 4 times, 4 times, 3 times, and this is only out of 7 snapshots. So we're running this daily. And so you can get an idea of what the top fan out queries are, and you can kind of aim your content strategy and things like that around it. And so lots of good stuff you can do there just covering the surface of it. So get an audit if it is of interest to you. You're also welcome to book a call with me if you want to just brainstorm and talk about whether it would make sense for you to try to rank better in ChatGPT and all of these engines. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. I hope you gained some value from this. If so, drop a comment. I'm always active, so drop a comment, like, whatever you want to do, and let's have a conversation. So I wish you the best of luck. See you in the next video.